Hello and welcome, Exiles, to my Berserker Voidforge Vaal Smite. And what we got going on here is some pretty simple concepts. We're using Dissolution of Flesh to basically stack big HP pool and separate our regen from being something we need to sustain into something we can use for generating more rage with Calm Spirit. And then we use that flat life to give us, or that extra HP from Dissolution of Flesh, to make Anomalous Bloodthirst give us a lot of flat fizz. This is a pretty common tech to go for when you're trying to stack a lot of flat fizz for Voidforge. With our character at 8k HP, this support represents 160 flat fizz damage, which basically takes a sword that has an average hit of like 120 to 280. It's a massive damage boost. It's a very big source of flat fizz, and I like it. It works out pretty well. Not only that, but we also are using Dissolution and Flush with combination of Eternal Youth for a sneaky way to get around Rite of Ruin's downside. This thing has a downside where you say lose life basically per second, and this actually goes against our red life pool and not our reservation life pool of Dissolution. It's a little bit of a trippy concept where Dissolution separates damage we take from damage we lose. And basically, the way it works is Eternal Youth recharge never turns off, and it will constantly sustain the degen from this, as well as sustain the degen we get from petrified blood damage, as well as damage from progenesis. You also ideally want to get something like Recoup on your rings. I ended up finding a random relic with Recoup, and I said, I'm going to throw that in. That's going to work well to sustain that. And ultimately, it does work pretty decently. I haven't really died to damage on my red HP pool. I've only really died to reservation, so the Recoup plus the Eternal Youth recharge seems to be working and doing its job pretty well. Now, not only that, what else are we doing in the character? Well, obviously, if you're doing Voidforge, there's no really other play besides Seekers of Suffering plus Trinity. It's just kind of what you have to do. It's just the best, most objectively strong thing to do, especially when you have a weapon like Voidforge that has a really bad base crit. Something like getting 6 brittle base crit is something over doubling your crit, very worth, kind of mandatory to be honest. So pretty simple stuff ultimately. My goal with this character was just be a character that goes fast. I jump on a map, my gloves start generating rage, I start attacking things generating rage, I turn on Berserk, I get to jump around real fast, hit a lot of things, press Vaal Smite, screen explodes, and I'm having a good time, right? It's a build made for fun. It's not a build made for being objectively like strong, well-rounded, right? The reason I say it's not objectively strong, well-rounded is because Dissolution of the Flesh, I think, is ultimately, unless you have just insane overkill damage like I did with the Relic of the Pack character, it's going to feel bad because there's things that are going to hit you and hit you and hit you. The more juiced your map is, the more likely you're going to be to take a couple nicks of damage here and there, and then you're going to get a degen on you or something annoying, and then you're going to get chipped down and you're going to die. So it has weaknesses. It's mostly just going to be a fun, I'm bum rushing Sanctum's build, and that's what I used it for, and I had fun with it. So it's why ultimately this character I'm not going to make a full build guide on. I'm not going to recommend it. I'm just saying, hey, if you want to look at this, maybe it's got some tech you like, maybe it's got something you can enjoy. I enjoyed playing it, but it's not a build I recommend to people in terms of like this being a good, well, objectively strong build. You know what I mean? Also, the cost of the build kind of got out of hand. In terms of progenesis, this flask, when I originally bought it, was only like 3 divines, which I was like, man, that's a pretty reasonable price for that flask. It went through the roof. I splurged and got a bottle of faith, which drove the cost of my character up. And then not only that, but I hit one of the possibly most GG double corrupts on my Voidforge, made it pretty unethical. That made the cost go up. Now granted, there's some counterbalance in the fact that I'm using close combat right now because I was too lazy to color my sword correctly. This should be a awaken melee fizz, for example. I don't have the objectively best links here, so that counterbalances basically the corruption a little bit, but it doesn't completely counterbalance it and stuff like that. Moral of the story is, I'll give you a showcase of the character, see what you can make your own mind up for it. Own mind up for it. But it's basically just turn on Berserk, run around, press Vaal Smite, things go boom, and then you just have basically a fun time jumping around. And always, oh shoot, I forgot to do this with Maven. Oh well, I guess we have Eater observing our Chimera. Kind of a little bit weird there, I guess, but yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's fine. Now we can take decent hits, but no, please no. I was gonna say we can take decent hits, but the but there is because if we start taking multiple hits in a row, the way Dissolution of Flesh works is, and this is part of the reason I don't think I'm going to recommend it as a build, is because there's this feels bad element of you have to go 2 seconds without taking any damage. It's very strict, very hard to go get around. Basically, if you have a really juiced map with like a bunch of monsters putting a bunch of stuff on the ground, it's going to be hard to not get hit in that time frame, right? So there's that risk there, that risk involved or whatever. and that's going to result in deaths and frustrations. So if you haven't played a Dissolution of Flesh build, there's like there's that level of caution I give to these sorts of builds, because ultimately that is going to greatly affect it, right? Now, I also want to say this. You might think, oh, your smite looks pathetic. Keep in mind, this is a 40% less AoE map, so our smite is like half the AoE it would be normally. I just want to, like, put that out there so people, you know, they don't start calling my smite small, you know, because it's not my fault, man. It's not my fault. I have less AoE mod. It's completely normal to look like that in a map like this. It's just cold out, I swear. Anyways, this is my Vaal Smiter. This is my only video I'm going to make about it, just to share you, hey, if you want to take some tech from it, this is what I did. I don't think it's objectively like OP or anything, just kind of a fun build to play. Just something I did to farm some Sanctums, got all the way to 95, just kind of bum rushing Sanctums and going straight to the boss. Sanctum's one of those things where it's not really about defenses, so if you have a build that just does damage, you can kind of like have a good time there, and that's what this character did. It had a good time in there, Sanctum, because it had damage. And outside of that, it also had the feels good. Like, Vaal Smite is a very fun button to press, and you get to press it like 6, 7, 8 times throughout a map. It has a very short soul gain prevention, and just whenever you get to a new pack that you can press it on is just always a win, really. Okay. Where are you? Alright, so that's what it looks like on a Chimera, I guess. That was supposed to be Maven, but I messed it up, but I did Eater, whatever. It's fine. Point is, that's my Vaal Smiter. Hopefully you guys liked the video. And until next time, take care, exiles, and peace out, man. I can't talk today. Anyways, see ya.